Your network is your net worth. And what that means is how to navigate through the industry through... That's not what it means, because I wasn't even supposed to put that in there right there. Welcome to the Elevated Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Harris, aka Jon of Monarch Mentality Productions.
And I'm his co-host, Kwalanda, aka Q of Q Up Productions. And on this podcast, we like to discuss ways in which creators can take their talents to the next level. So if you're interested in elevating your creativity, stay tuned for today's episode. So on today's episode, we're going to really dig into getting your start in the industry. Again, as we discussed last week, for us, when we say the industry, we're referring to the entertainment industry. So film, TV, music, just media in general, right?
Most definitely.
And one of the most important things about getting your start in the industry and getting your foot through the door is networking.
Most definitely. And to elaborate on that, a good saying that I heard is your network is your net worth. So building your network and navigating through the industry is easier when you build relationships with people. And building relationships with people is pretty much who do you know, but more importantly, who knows you. So when people know you and you have a good representation or, good representation of yourself, it's easier to move around because your name is more, on the radar.
Exactly. And also on last week's episode, we talked a little bit about our backgrounds, about some of the things we do in the industry and how Jon and I met, and also some of the things we've done in our past. But today we really want to dig deep and give you guys more specific information about certain jobs that we have, certain entry-level jobs that we had, and also how we built our network, right?
Most definitely.
All right, so we said we would talk a little bit about how we got our start in the industry. So if you don't mind, Jon, I guess I'll kick us off. So basically, as you guys know, if you listen to our previous episode, and for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, I actually went to school for film and video production at Georgia State University. I actually started at North Carolina A&T, Aggie Pride, as a journalism major. So at first I went to school for journalism because film and video wasn't really that big unless you went to a school like AIU or actually a film school like in New York. Most of the other colleges didn't really offer film programs, you know? And so when I transferred to Georgia State, their film program was actually pretty new. And so it was a great opportunity for me to even network with my classmates, because we were all budding filmmakers, these wide-eyed, bushy-tailed college kids excited to make our mark in the industry. And Atlanta was nowhere what it is now. You know how they call Atlanta the Hollywood of the South? Because, this is back in like 06, 07. And so we had, of course, Tyler Perry kind of making his footprint. But at that time, I think he only had like the one movie out. Rainforest Films was pretty big, which is Will Packer and Rob Hardy, because they were kind of, getting their foot wet.
Especially with the Twa series.
Yes. What you know about that, Jon?
Hey, no.
For those who don't know, those are the black erotica
let me tell
thriller
y'all
movies.
Something. That was before they had Netflix and chill. If you had a VCR and I pulled up, we're going to put it on there.
Well, they're on like Amazon Prime and I think Tubi, if you have that app.
If y'all do, make sure y'all check it out and always support.
Yes, but definitely shout out to Will Packer and Rob Hardy because they were a big inspiration for me in my career. But anyway, so that was me getting, building my network in college. Like I said, just networking with my classmates. When I decided to do my student or short film, student film, whichever one you want to call it. Yep. I reached out to my classmates, I didn't try to call up Tyler Perry on the phone and say, hey, I have this movie. No, I had friends who, I had some friends who were in design school that wanted to be fashion designers. I had friends who wanted to be editors. I had friends who wanted to act. And so I just tapped into my network of my classmates. And that's really, how I kind of got my start after putting in the groundwork, because a lot of people, especially these days, don't want to put in the work. So taking it back just a little bit, I took a semester off from between freshman year and my sophomore year. And during that time, Jon, I actually worked as a personal assistant. So, like we said, a lot of people these days, they want that instant success. They don't want to grind. They don't want to put in the work or the time. It's like everybody just want to go viral. They just want to boss up without any kind of foundation. And so I'm not gonna lie, that personal assistant job was kind of rough.
It was kind of rough.
It was kind of rough.
But did you learn from like the person you was assisting, kind of just seeing like the complexities of their day and stuff like that?
Everything that I learned when I was a personal assistant, I literally still use today.
Perfect.
And the thing is, I was a personal assistant to a minister. And she was actually one of the ministers. Some of you may have heard of Creflo Dollar, World Chambers Church International. She was a minister there, and she actually had a nonprofit organization where she taught people about personal finance. And so she was on TV. She would do like recordings and stuff like that. And because I wasn't in school, she kind of took me under her wing. And I loved her as a mentor, but being her personal assistant, have you seen the movie The Devil Wears Prada?
I just know if I see the devil wearing
and I
Prada.
love you, Minister Hunter. If you happen to watch this, you know I love you, but you know you put me through the ringer. So it was kind of like that. Like, I had to carry her bags. When we made it to the church, I had to make sure that everything was set up for her before she got there. I used to have to be at the table selling her books and her CDs and stuff like that. I had to carry myself a certain way. It was a lot.
I think that was a blessing, though.
No, it definitely was. And I was only, I think, 18. And I feel like I say I'm 19 every story I tell.
Okay.
So maybe the last story I was like...
You were probably about 18.
No, I was like 18 or 19. The last story I probably was like 2021. But that's neither here nor there.
No, your last story, you weren't 2021.
I was.
You couldn't even get drinks. You were talking about going back to the college to get some hot
20.
ones.
Let's just say I was 19 for all the throwback stories I tell, okay? All right. So anyways, long story short, I learned a lot from her because she was a female entrepreneur. She was a millionaire. You're still laughing. I can't be 19 for every throwback story.
I'm good. It's just funny.
Anyways. But yeah, like I said, she was an entrepreneur. She was a millionaire. She was successful. And I really felt like it was a blessing that I had that one-on-one relationship with her. But she expected nothing but greatness from me. And so she instilled excellence in me because it was like, she would not let up. If I made mistakes, if it was something that wasn't done right or that was incomplete, I don't want to say she chewed my head off about it, but she was like very, like, she was on me. And like, it was not a fun job. It wasn't. But now looking back on it, it's definitely taught me like how to carry myself,
Most definitely. So I think, just from the outside looking in, listening to your story, I think that was pretty good for like a boss female role. And I say that respectfully, meaning like just seeing somebody who became a millionaire and can discuss finance and teach people those things. And that's just, reaching out to reaching a hand back down to a younger black woman, black young lady, and pulling them up and showing you this is how you navigate, this is how you carry yourself. Because I heard in the last episode, of course I know that your father been raising you from 5 and up. Mm-hmm. So I know that with that masculine energy, you kind of balance it out as far as, from how a dad would to a lady.
For sure. And that's really honestly how she became my mentor. Because my dad signed up for one of her finance classes. And my dad, he has personality. Everybody
big
loves
personality.
him.
Shout out to her dad on Old National.
Shout out to my dad. Don't we tell him where he lives?
In the area, somewhere here. College Park.
Anyways, but yeah, so my dad, she saw the situation. She saw that I didn't have a mom, and she really stepped into that role.
Most
like definitely. I said, took me under her wing. So worked as a personal assistant while I was in school, partnered with my classmates, and even then I still did different internships. I did extra work. I remember last time you mentioned about being an extra. I've been an extra on bigger productions, just to kind of see and observe what it looks like. And really just from there, every opportunity I had, I tried to sign up and just learn, like from learning behind the camera stuff, learning editing, learning sound. If I got asked to hold the boom mic, knowing I don't know anything about sound, and I don't even really use that today, but it's still good to know.
Most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? So I never felt like I was too big to do anything. Or like, I want to be a director. I'm not going to hold this boom mic. Or, I never really had that type of attitude.
Q, since I known you, I always give you give you your personal accolades. But I just want to say that you have been doing pretty much all the jobs. People got to ask for jobs on your set, you know. So you were like, yeah, directed, written, this, that. I'm like, okay, did you? Yeah. And it wasn't narcissism. It was just because you knew how to do everything, and you wasn't scared for the work. You didn't run from responsibilities. And I think that was amazing. I remember, you know, being the director, the writer, one of the producers, pretty much the executive producer, putting money up, and also the DP, the director of photography. So I kind of got my little start in that too through you. So we'll move forward.
He did. And just before you go into depth about you, I will say the only thing about that though, Jon, I feel like when you're wearing so many hats, it's hard to like hone in on one skill and like really perfect one skill. Because when I was behind the camera and trying to do the technical stuff, it was harder for me to direct and focus on the actors. And then also wearing that producer's hat, thinking about the time, keeping up with the schedule. So when you're trying to do all of that, it really kind of takes away. And so I want to really encourage people, yeah, you can do it all, but if you don't have to, because that's where networking comes in, right?
Most definitely.
If you don't have to wear all the hats, then step aside or bring somebody on board to try to help take that load off.
Most definitely. I remember vividly one particular moment is like you were bombarded on set when everybody was asking, Q, what about this? Q, what about this? Have you seen the actor? Have you heard from this person? Hey, this. All right, what's the next location? What time you looking? Hold up, wait a minute now. You know, so you need a little bit of coffee in your cup then, but it was crazy. But
exactly.
Beautiful thing. But yeah, elaborate some more, Q.
Oh, me? I get to talk some more?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Ladies first.
Don't be trying to act like a gentleman just because the world is listening. No, I'm playing. Jon.
Hey.
I will say this, though. Jon is like one of the most nicest. He's a big guy. He's half the size he was when I met him. But he's like very tall in stature, and his presence is known. But one thing, he makes his presence known. But one thing that I appreciate about Jon, especially with me being a woman in this industry, he's never like tried to, how do I say this? Like, exude his masculinity over me, or like try to say because he's a man like he has to be over me or my productions or run the show, you know, because you have a lot of guys, especially in this industry, I'm the boss, I'm the director, you know, and they kind of carry this bravado about themselves, and it's like, okay, calm down.
Hey brother, bring it down about 2 notches, please.
Right. And so, Jon, before I let you elaborate, because I do want to hear some more, even though, you know, I kind of know, but our listeners, of course, want to know about some of the jobs that you've had in the industry starting out. But I do want to share this African proverb with our listeners that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. And I think that's one of the things that's had a big impact on my life and why I have been able to sustain being in the industry for so long, even though I took a 3-year hiatus, you know, which we'll talk about later. But the fact that I had built that network of people that supported me when it was time for me to come back, I didn't have to do it alone. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to go further because of that. So with all that being said, I'm going to sit back, I'm going to eat my popcorn, and I'm going to listen to Jon talk, y'all.
Well, I'm not quite sure you wanted popcorn, so you know, I don't know how good of a story this is, but we're just gonna talk about entry-level jobs and how we got our start in this industry. And for myself, as you know from last episode, I'm an artist, a visual artist, so you know, that's illustrations, working with different kind of forms of art mediums as far as graphite, pastels, paints.
Have you ever done animation?
A mild little animation, like animation wheel, but I haven't done like, I'm more of a traditional artist. Like I learned the hard way, kind of.
Explain what that is.
Okay, so like as far as animations, things are now, most of the things that you do through art now is through digital graphics, and that'll be like as far as like dealing with computers, tablets, different stylist type,
Okay.
pens and stuff like that. I'm more traditional, kind of like get your hands dirty. You better have piece of paper under your hand so you don't smear your work that you just did. So
And y'all, Jon is so talented. I remember, and it's so funny, we're going to be telling these stories about each other. I think it was Love That Never Leaves, which is a short film we did back in
I remember that
2014. It was shortly after we did the feature film A Time for Love.
We done worked on a lot of stuff.
We have, but we were in Waffle House and we were having like a production meeting, and Jon, we were just talking about the story, and Jon took a napkin and he like storyboarded like right there on the spot on the napkin, and we was like, dang, and he drew the actors like so perfectly, like the drawing was just phenomenal on a Waffle House napkin.
Yeah, that was fun.
So
I remember
talented, but yeah.
I appreciate that. But just kind of go back into it. As far as getting into the industry, I started off just being an artist, and I know last episode we talked about me doing a comic book. So going back in hindsight, I was a young man doing art. Started from like 4 years old up into just forever. But I got into comic books when me and my friend, his name was Carlos. Me and Carlos, we started a comic book together.
Is this the one you sold for $1?
Yeah, this is the comic book I sold for $1. And the comic book was entitled Future Warrior. So we kind of created the name, we created the story. We even created our own comic book company, and it was called TAC Comics. It was an acronym, TAC, and it was a totally advanced comics. So shout out to Ninja Turtles, because I don't know where we kind of get like totally from, but we were like, yeah, let's call it TAC, and we'll put it like this and create our characters. We had like heroes, we had villains, we had the backstory to our characters and everything like that. But just going forward, just saying like all around, just being creative and creating your kind of your own position and your existence in this industry. I would say just being in school. I took all my core classes in high school. As far as I went to high school in 8th grade, so we didn't have middle school back then. So shout out to Tucker High School, THS, Tucker Tigers. Anyway, I went to school, and we went to school in starting in 8th grade. So 8th grade on up, you took your core classes, everything like that. So you had room for elective. I did shop. I did a couple of other things. I took technology as well in high school, and that was actually me being a sports announcer on TV in high school. So like every time, like the morning announcements, people get to see. And the sad part about it, I never really was a big fan of sports. I didn't even like sports like that. I just wanted to be on TV. So so me having a big afro, getting in front of class like this, your morning announcements. We talk about who won, what was the stats and stuff like that.
But you've always been a very personable communicator, talker, socialite. Can guys be socialites? Or what's the male version of that?
I think it's socialites. It's kind of like a extrovert almost.
Okay. Yeah, very extroverted.
Yeah, so so doing that kind of just opened me up to things, but really like to elaborate on school as far as like traditional school. Once I was in 11th grade, I had all my classes. So going to 12th grade, I only had to take 3 classes at the high school, and the other 3 classes I took at DeKalb High School of Technology. So I would either drive to the school after lunch. I eat lunch, or probably pull off, go to Burger King or whatever like that. I had a car in 11th grade, you know what I'm saying?
I did too. I had a red Mustang.
Okay, shout out.
Just putting that out there. I had a car in 11th grade. Well, so did I, Jon.
But you know what? Most urban kids couldn't do that because, like,
I know.
Man.
Because, like, let me tell you, for me, even before I got my car, like when I was one of the first ones to get my license out of my friend group, my dad had a blue Astro van. So I became the cruise taxi. Like, did that happen
Yeah.
when you got your car? How you were giving all your friends a ride to school?
No, I didn't fool with a lot of folk like that. I did, but I didn't. I was more in my neighborhood and like because I came up in Lithonia, but I went to Tucker. They had a whole minority.
So most of your friends were in your neighborhood.
Yes, and I wasn't really kicking it with too many people. Just a couple folk. I had people there. Like I fooled with folk at Tucker. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to everybody, you know, from Tucker High School watching this. But as far as like
John, you shout out everything and everybody.
yeah, we got to. Now I need these listeners.
Just
now.
make sure they subscribe to this podcast.
Most definitely, you know. But to just move forward on everything, I would either drive or catch the bus. Sometimes I wanted to be, you know, get on the bus and beat on the windows and Jon on folk, whatever. Like we'd catch the bus. Either I drive to the school or either I ride with one of my homeboys. He had a car too. You know, so I ride with Cat Daddy or whatever. We'll pull up. But I went to the DeKalb High School of Technology, and that really kind of like they said, okay, what class you want to take there? Those classes you could either do shop, which is like automotive. You could do like they didn't have a welding class. I think they had I know they had cosmetology. Where you could do hair. It was more like transitional classes to kind of like if you're going to like either trade school or something like that. You know what I mean?
Which honestly, I think those classes are kind of the best ones to take because they prepare you for having a career. Versus what was like college prep. You know how you have like college prep versus trade or I don't.
So these were actually like
vocational school.
Yeah, these were actually like college prep classes. So like even if you're going to these were elective classes, but it was accredited as far as like it credits you for whatever you're going into. Right. So it was a class they had on the list, and I'm like, man, I said, okay, I just take some. What can I do? And everybody knew I could draw because. And let's give another little piece of Tucker High School. And I'm not gonna tell the whole story. We'll just tell a little smidge of this. At the school, I actually did the T-shirts for the whole class of '98, and that wasn't my class. That was my sister class. So me being a 10th grader, I did her whole senior class for her T-shirts as a 10th grader for the senior class of '98. So then, you know, 99, another artist did his class, you know, shout out to him. And in class of 2000, when I came out, you know, leaders of the new school, shoot, I did my whole T-shirts and artwork and everything for my class as well. So people knew I knew how to draw. You know, people knew I was creative. But in the first episode of this podcast, we talked about raw creativity. And just being like, just knowing, just you're being creative, but not really knowing what to do with it. Mm-hmm. So when I went to DeKalb High School of Technology as a 12th grader, and I actually drove to the school, they had a course, and the course was called, visual communications. So visual communication sounds like a communication class that you just looking at a visual. I didn't really know like what is visual.
Or maybe like they're teaching you how to communicate on screen.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? They're like, no, it's all art genres. And I was like, okay. So I said, okay, let me get in here. So some people would come to the class, they just wanted to use it as an elective. Like, okay, I'm just getting out of school. I could draw this, be a little easy class or whatever. But I had a phenomenal teacher. And I learned so much from this lady, so I want to actually give her acknowledgement. Her name was Miss Rosemary Wynn. So she was my teacher at the school, and she really seen my talents and seen things that I was doing, and she really believed in me, and exposed me to a lot of different things. We had a project, an entry-level project, when I first got to took that course. And one of the entry-level projects was a hand project where you're doing different hand gestures and doing hands. You want to see how to show the perspectives of hands, show where the light is casting on the hand, from what side the light is casting on, and also the making the hands more three-dimensional instead of 2D, making it more like a three-dimensional object and showing texture in the hands. So she seen my creative things and she didn't judge me because like we had some thugs in the classroom too. I ain't gonna lie. So I didn't want to be like, okay, I'm the only the guy that knew how to draw or whatever. So the hand project I actually did. I said, I'm gonna make this creative. She said, draw some hands. I'm gonna draw some hands. Me being from Lithonia, I had a hand throwing up like different hoods, different little. It wasn't no like.
You had the hands throwing up gang signs.
Not gang signs, but it was like our hood signs, like you know what I'm saying. So I had one hand throwing up East Side, then I had another hand throwing up L Town. I had another hand throwing up LA. I wasn't really affiliated, but you know we had like the Lithonia All Stars back then. We had a lot of little different things. So other hand throwing up, shouting out Marble Road, and it, like throwing up all this stuff. Then I drew a person's head. I drew a person's head next to the hands. She didn't even ask for that in the project. And the person was mean mugging. And that's kind of like having like a mild little scowl. You know what I'm saying? You're not urban or whatever. But they were like mean mugging. And they had like gold teeth in their mouth. They had like 6 open faces going across the top. But it had like waves in, everything, whatever. So the whole thing, and she looked at it. And I'm like, man, this gonna scare this, not saying scare this white lady, but she was Caucasian, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Miss Wynn. But she was like, wow, this is amazing. Okay, so you see how you got his gold teeth? Now, you know gold isn't just yellow. So it's gonna have a little bit of brown. It's gonna have a little, I'm like, she telling me how to draw gold teeth. You know what I mean? I'm like, wow, like you wasn't judging. You seen the artistic talent and just exposing me to different things. And I'm going to speed this story up a little bit, but like exposing me to different people and places and different things. Like another thing by just dealing with her in that class, I was able to be in the DeKalb County school calendar for the DeKalb County whole school district. So there was a 12-page calendar for just a month of the year, and you wanted the 12 students to be in the calendar. And I did this with I think it was like either once or twice, I believe. I was in one thing for the DeKalb County was a calendar, a school calendar. Also, I was in another project through the school, but then she started applying me to different other galleries. Like she put me in one of my pieces of work in the Stone Mountain Art Gallery. She put one of my pieces of work in the High Museum. They had a student exhibit. And
just for those who may not be familiar, you're talking about the High Museum of Art here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, the High
big deal.
The High Museum of Art. Yeah. And the sad part about it is my family. It was some stuff going on. They couldn't go. And just because I knew my family wasn't going or whatever, I didn't even show up to my own gallery. Because it's like I was really like an urban kid. And when I say an urban kid, like that wasn't really like, oh, y'all go check this out. Oh, he's in it. You know, my mom, she'll be like, oh, this is cool. I think my mom came to the Stone Mountain Art Gallery, but none of my other family members didn't. It wasn't like they wasn't really studying that, whatever. But
yeah. But you know, it's funny, and I just want to add to that a little bit, John. One of the things I notice is when people don't really especially the people close to you, like your family, when they don't really understand what you're doing, sometimes it's hard for them to support you like you want them to support you. But when you put that art out there, like think about when we had our premieres. How many people showed up? Hold on.
So we gonna talk about that.
I'm jumping ahead. But that was good.
That's cool. But just to wrap this up, like a lot of my family members didn't really know, like you said, they didn't really know how to support me. They was like, okay, you drawing, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, so what does that mean? What does it do? So me seeing somebody that number one believe in you, and we were talking about energies as well, like from the previous episode. Y'all make sure y'all check out episode 1. We were talking about energies, and just like when somebody see that spark in you and you could be yourself and just be organically you, you know, just be who you are, you know, and don't be scared to, you know, be yourself, but find different things. I didn't know anything about the galleries. I'm like, what is this? I never been to the Atlanta with the High Museum of Art. I never been to the Stone Mountain Art Gallery. I was like, okay, what is it? Oh, okay, we got to do. Okay, you didn't show up to the last one. Make sure you show up with this. You know, I understand you can wear something. You know, if you have a collar shirt, put like at least like a polo shirt. Just kind of be casual with it. This. And I'm like, man, like I'm with all these other people from other schools, I was just so stuck in my community. I was so stuck in just one way of really just thinking, and it's like just being exposed to different people, exposed to different cultures. It really expanded me. A big piece I did with her as well was, and by the way, I'm a pescatarian now, but at the time, I didn't even eat this. She was like, okay, I want you to draw. She went through like a Southern cooking book or like a cookbook or something. She's like, I want you to draw this picture right here. And she like, I want you to draw the lobster and the limes, and I want you to make the colors very vibrant and lush. I want to see all this. And every piece on the paper where it's color at, every piece of the picture gonna, reflect that color. The plate is gonna reflect off the lobsters, the lobster gonna reflect off the plate. There's gonna be this, da da da. I never had lobster before. At that time, I'm looking like, okay. She like, draw this, draw. I'm like, all right, well, let me go ahead with it. And people still see the picture to the day. I was 17 years old doing that, and people see the picture to the day like, oh, you drew this? Did you paint this? I'm like, no, that's color pencils. How did you blend the But a person like networking and you meeting people and getting the courage to just be yourself and be different, and don't be scared to take your restraints off your creativity and release your unlimited power of your creativity. One of the things to discuss as well, like I said, is thinking outside the box. Thinking outside the box and really like opening doors and creating your own way and your own pathway. So like I said in the story, I didn't really know like about, okay, they got a gallery here. I'm from Lithonia Stone Mountain, but I never been to the Stone Mountain Art Gallery. I didn't even know they had an art gallery there. I'm like, okay, they got this, they got that. So when you're thinking outside the box and just, navigating through it, if it hasn't been created, try to create it. If you look online now, we didn't even have the internet like jumping like that back then. So everything, if you didn't know about it, if you didn't see it in the paper or figure it out, you just not gonna know about it. So actually, like, we're in the information age now. So being in information, oh wow, I'm tongue tied. Okay, moving forward, but like, information is so available nowadays, and we could really like look up anything you want to know, anything you want to see, anything you want to do it. And don't be scared to take an entry level job. Don't be scared to go in and say, okay, like when Q said she started off even being an assistant, like, okay, how can you be a millionaire? You can't even assist a millionaire. How can you talking about, oh, I want to be a famous artist, or I want to be a famous, this person or whatever. How can you do that if, like, where's you showing your work at? What are you doing? So expand your horizon and think outside the box. Go to different places you never want to go, that you never been to. A lot of things is free. It's free creative events in Atlanta, and also too, I kind of want to just talk about, also like leaving your comfort zone and like, and like no limitations. So that kind of go hand in hand with thinking outside the box and leaving your comfort zone.
And John, I just want to add to, since we're talking about leaving your comfort zone, for me, one of the most uncomfortable things was networking itself. Since we're talking about that, I hate networking. I know you're looking at me crazy because I network so much.
You network so good.
But I'm better now, but just thinking back to, and sorry, I'm far from the mic, when I first started and like really being in that place where I had to put myself out there and meet new people and talk to people. Anytime I went to, because Atlanta used to have a lot of these networking events, right? When the film industry first started. Remember, like every Thursday night, they had the film industry mixer and this and that. And so I would go to those things, but I hated talking to people I didn't know. I hated introducing myself to people. I hate being put on the spot. When I did do projects, I hate when people would come up to me and ask me, oh, so what do you do? Or, oh, so you're a writer? Oh, what kind of projects do you like to do? I didn't like doing that. So for me, even though it's so important, that was something I had to do to get out. It took me getting out of my comfort zone to do that. Even doing this podcast, it's extremely uncomfortable being in front of the camera and even talking on the mic, knowing that anybody in the world can listen to what we're talking about and hear our voices. It's very uncomfortable, but I know it's something that we don't have to do it, but we choose to do it. You know?
I would say this, like, www, that's the World Wide Web. Everybody know that acronym. I'm saying, like, you got people who might not want to hear what you got to say, but you got so many people that actually want to hear. You got so many people that our stories could actually touch them. Not saying, that we're so entitled to speak on any and everything. We're just telling our stories and our own personal creative testimonies, you know what I'm saying, like that. Right. So,
but I guess it's just that vulnerability. Because being an artist in general, you have to be vulnerable. Like when you do an art piece, you're putting your soul into it. You're giving of yourself. And when it's released to the world, it's like, oh shoot. You know what I'm saying? You kind of get that feeling.
So Q, so let me just add on to something. I know earlier I said that I'm an extrovert. I do want to elaborate on that. If I don't know really the proper term, I'm trying to work on expanding my vocabulary. But I'm an extro introvert. So it's kind of like on the outside, like I get the party jumping. I mean, you know what I'm saying? They say, hey, get the trap jumping out here. I could get it pogo stick jumping. Yeah, pogo stick. Yes, up and down, like action going. So everybody like, oh, okay, yeah, da. But really, like on the inside, a lot of times, man, I'm really a personable person. I'm really like I'm more of a private person. Mm-hmm. I'm personal to people, but I'm very private as well too. Mm-hmm. So everybody can't get this energy, and it's not for everybody. I'm not saying that it's special. Like, ooh, I get the no. It's cool. You ain't got it. Hey, do your thing.
And it's like you have to kind of guard yourself and protect that energy because you have so much to offer the world, and so that kind of leads into one of the things we wanted to talk about, which was your circle of influence. Right? Wow. Like who is around you that's pouring into you. So not only who are you pouring into, but who's pouring into you. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because, you ever heard, I know we do a lot of sayings and quotes on the show, but the saying where it's like, show me who your friends are and I'll show you who you are, or something like that. Like the people that you spend the most time with.
A reflection of yourself.
They are a reflection of yourself. And so going back to like your story about, doing the art that you did in school and stuff. And I really want to, for you to kind of touch on at what point did that transition and you found yourself being around more artists like yourself?
Honestly, like it was okay, I gotta say this in the most political way. It was a cultural gap. So contrary to popular belief, I know, they say, okay, he light skinned with hazel eyes, green eyes, whatever you want to call it, whatever. But I was really a southern country east side dude, like on some real like our upbringing was totally different. So art, like when I talk about art, it's not like, oh, and this is I didn't even know the Ninja Turtles was named after real deal artists until like we watched the cartoons, and then even then I didn't look up those artists. I'm like, who's
Michelangelo?
Yeah, who's Leonardo da Vinci, and who's Michelangelo and Raphael, and who, like I didn't even look up. I'm like, okay, I seen a Picasso piece. I thought it was ugly because I didn't really respect and really understand it until I understood it was so many dynamics of art. And me talking about one of my mentors, shout out to Miss Rosemary Wynn again. If you're hearing this, I haven't spoken to you in a while. I gotta reach out and, hopefully everything's well with you. I definitely wouldn't mind reaching out to you. But it's like me being myself. She showed me a way that I could fit in. And when I say just fit in, like, okay, just like draw what you want to draw. I said, okay, cool. I used to draw cars with rims with girls sitting in it. Like, not in no exploitation, but it was just some cool stuff. Like, draw whatever you want to draw. So again,
John, like, at what point, though, did that transition into, like, you working on a film set, working on a music video set? Like, at what period and point in your life?
To say all that is to say this. As kids, we have our own confidence. Kids are just free-spirited, free-will. They'll do anything if you don't tell them. But adults break kids' confidence. So me getting my confidence back into, like, I could fit in, I could do whatever. Like, I'm actually in the art gallery. I didn't want to go the first time because I'm like, hey, my family ain't going. Ain't nobody going to show up. And then plus, I'm like, people probably don't even like this. I don't want to be in the room, you standing there, so I'm like, who drew this? I'm like, okay, let me get up out of here real quick. Yeah. Catch the martyr bus back to the L town, 86 Lithonia back to Decatur. But you know what I'm saying? But I was like, man, let me go to the next one. And just to see people like, wow, like you did a animation sale. It was an animation sale at the Stone Mountain Gallery where it was like the first page was like cellophane plastic and the back was acrylic paint. But just to do that and people was actually liked it, it kind of sparked that confirmation or confidence back into you. Mm-hmm. So now when I told the other story back in episode 1 about how I told my little fib as far as like getting a storyboard artist, by that time I had my own little kind of like swag then. Like I had I started getting like mildly like cocky with saying like, okay man, I'm an artist. I can draw. I mean, I'm from the east side, I'm from Lithonia, and ain't nobody about to outdraw me, real deal. And it's like it was like, okay, whatever I want to do, I could do it. Mm-hmm. And it was those small little steps, those stepping stones in the right direction that gave me the confidence to feel like I could do anything.
Wow. And you know, that's so opposite of me. But you're making that face, but it's true because how you said, I know you said you were an extrovert, but also an introvert. I get that because it is possible. Mm-hmm. But you just had that confidence to kind of walk into any room, to take on any project that you wanted to do because you knew what you brought to the table, right? Like you knew the value of your talents. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, it's like I had the confidence, but I was still like, it was just a networking thing. I was always kind of afraid sometimes to say, yeah, I'm this, or yeah, I'm that, or yeah, I bring this to the table. Yeah, I have that to offer. I mean, occasionally I would, because like the project we talked about where I said, yeah, I can direct. But I love the way you shared it, how you said, you know, I mean, I had the talent, and once I got that little bit of confirmation, I was
it was raw talent that was it was kind of harnessed and refined and put into the right direction. But let me tell you about yourself, and this just from the outside looking in as like a personal assessment from my eyes. One thing I respected and I always respected about you is you didn't have to. You were never a beggar in the soup line. You were never the one begging somebody, oh, please let me in. Everybody, you get into the film industry, and shout out to Tyler Perry, but you're gonna hear it every time. Oh, I didn't know you do film. Hey, you ever reached out to Tyler Perry? Have you ever reached out? I mean, I understand, like, yeah, that's one of the gatekeepers, but you ain't just the end all be all. Man, let me tell you something, man. We got the Mason-Dixon line. We got, and that's another southern term. We got the South. You got the North. You got the Midwest. Let's just say Georgia. Like, you can say, where you from, Atlanta? No, I said I'm from DeKalb County. That's Decatur, Lithonia, all of that, East Atlanta, all of that. So you say, well, they don't like your work and done with it. Okay, you ain't got to like it and done with it. How y'all feel in Decatur? You know what I'm saying? Well, they don't like it in Columbus, Georgia. What about MacTown? Shout out to Kitchen Pride.
You can find your audience.
Yeah, it's everywhere. You could do whatever you want to be. Don't be yourself. Don't be like, well, I gotta do it this way. Oh, they telling a love story. Well, mine is gonna be a love story, and it's gonna be they're gonna do this. Man, tell whatever kind of story you want to tell. Mm-hmm. Whether it's horror, whether it's action, whether you want to tell a superhero story, do whatever you want to do. If you can't do film, draw a comic book. And you say, well, I can't draw a comic book. Can you write? You're like, well, my handwriting not good. Okay, can you type? What about my typewriter? Hey, no. They got the little microphone. How your voice sound? They got Audible. Tell a story. Do whatever you want to. Don't limit yourself, and it's okay to be who you want to be. And if this person don't like you, another little saying, is it's plenty of fish in the sea, and that's it. So like, it's gonna be okay. But to embark on what you said, when I met Q never would. She had created her own story, it was her own world, and entering her world was it was like organic. I really felt it. I really felt it at the time. I was like, wow, like it makes sense, and you had that confidence. So whether you were discouraged on the inside, you don't got to let the world know.
Now, granted, the confidence grew, but I think what helped my confidence to grow was my going back to that circle of influence. It was the people I surrounded myself with. It was my family. Like, I always had people pouring into me. Now, granted, it's so funny what you said about Tyler Perry, because if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me, oh, why don't you just go work for Tyler Perry? Why don't you? And you know what's funny? I don't know if I ever told you, I actually interviewed to be Tyler Perry's assistant. This is like...
I was bucking the system. People saying, why don't you? I said, man, I go to top.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you. I was all for creating my own. But this was in like it was before we did the Single Life, maybe like 2013, 2014. And I was like, well, maybe I should, try to go work over there. And I did interview. I think I got to like the Zoom interview, which was like the second round, and it didn't work because one thing that I've learned from people that I know, and no offense to anybody who works there, but I have friends who worked in the writer's room. My cousin was the first AD on a couple of his projects. But Tyler is very particular about what he wants.
Most
and it's his world. It's literally Tyler Perry studio. It's his world. And if you have any kind of ambition to do more than whatever your position is working there, you got to kind of keep that to yourself. So like if you're an actor working in the writer's room, it's kind of like, it's very political. So it's kind of frowned upon to kind of say, well, I really want to be acting or I want to audition. You kind of just got to keep that to yourself.
But let me just say this, and not really say in his defense, I would say from his perspective, I kind of relate with it. Create your own world. If I told you my company was called Future Warriors, it's like, why was it called Future Warriors? Because they were two teenagers in current time. A portal opened up and it sucked them in and it took them into the future. But when they came through the future, they still had the teenage mentality, but they were grown-ups. So you're like, well, so how did, and the guy trained them. He said, well, I need y'all because he felt that they were fearless. Well, I don't want to go into it. I might revamp that. You know what I'm saying?
But no, I feel what you're saying, and I think that's why you and I have been so successful.
We create our own world, and being independent. Yeah. But I want to add on a little something too, and I want to talk about making yourself a valuable asset. Whatever you do, like independent films. At the time, nobody wasn't doing storyboards. So when I came in as an independent film, it's like, okay, you're taking something that you see on big productions and different things, and shot lists and storyboards, and okay, what is this? Because people say, okay, we're gonna do this. They're just going off a fly. And I say, you know what? Let me draw out these scenes and storyboard out these scenes of what you want to do. So they say, okay, well, I want the girl. She's gonna be coming in, and it's like, okay, somebody gonna jump out the woods and. Okay, what side are they going to jump out to? Which direction she going in? Okay, so now I do a storyboard of each scene. Okay, this is a close-up. This is a tight shot. They looking like, wow, make yourself an asset. So if it hasn't been done, try to do it. It's so much information out here. And I know it's times right now, and it's hard times. Never making light of like the COVID-19 and what's going on with being quarantined and everything like that. But when you were quarantining, I heard a lot of people say, and this just what I hear. I heard a lot of people say, "Oh my God, it's so boring. You can't go anywhere. You can't do this. You can't do that." How many books did you read? Yeah. I don't read books. Okay, hey, how many books did you listen to? How many podcasts did you listen to? How many anything informative? What did you do to elevate yourself? Not just period. So when you looking like, well, I don't know what to do, how to. Let's surround yourself. See what you could do. See what you have to offer. What's your inner ambitions, and just brainstorm. I'm good at this. I'm good at that. I kind of like this, and put that in the search on the web, and let's just work on that. But make yourself a valuable asset.
And that's true because again, like going back to even the title of this episode, your network is your net worth, you know. And we always want to kind of, you know, lead up to the point where we're going to eventually talk more about monetizing your talents, you know, and getting paid for your gifts and the things that you offer and bring to the table. And I like what you mentioned about how, you know, when making yourself a valuable asset, how in independent film, a lot of people don't have storyboard artists, because that's something on like some Hollywood level type stuff. And even with me from, you know, a producing standpoint, like I was creating call sheets and shot lists and shoot schedules,
man,
like on my college student film, and they're like, "Dang, Q, you serious?"
Man, let me tell you something real quick. I used to get mad at Q when I say, okay, man, let me say some one thing. I know urban terminology, people talking about the juice, the sauce, all of that. Man, she had the real deal sauce. I'm talking, this would be like the equivalent of Chick-fil-A Polynesian sauce. She had that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because like when Q come, she was so ready. I didn't even know. She was like, okay, John, I want you to do this. I'm like, okay. Did you check your email? I didn't even have my email linked to my phone. And this was Metro Jet opening up on Keller Road. I'm talking about some flip phone shouted like real deal. We didn't even have it. It was like, okay, let me check this. Let me check my email. I printed it out. Everything was ready. Call sheet, time. On the call, she created her own call sheet. On the time, it said the closest available hospital, just in case anybody get injured. She asked us on set for craft service. I'm like, what's craft service? We about to do, so I'm an artist. Do I need to do some crafts or something like that? I did not know terminology. I was so urban I was so urban and trying to hide my, like, you know, the urban side of me. I'm like, I said, okay, yeah, craft services, yep. I said, yep.
And see, from my point of view, I just looked at it as, okay, I'm not working on a big Hollywood production.
You brought that Hollywood swag, though.
I brought the Hollywood swag to our projects, but that's what made us stand out.
Yes.
Because, and shout out to all the actors and PAs and whoever's worked with us, like, one of the biggest compliments we always got was people would know it's a QR Media production, it's a Monarch Mentality production, Shell Star production, whatever the production.
They'll be like, oh my God, this is so professional. I had so much fun. I done heard to this day, people still say, oh my God, like just being on set is just this, is that. Because it's the energy of the climate. And when you say creative, how can you be creative when you're in a hostile environment? And draw something. You're like, man, what that, bro? Hey, man.
Yeah, it taints your creativity.
It does.
And you can't function like that.
It does. Take that negative energy somewhere. But just moving forward, back to what we were saying with Q, man, it was so professional. Craft service. She asked, did you have any food allergies? Is anybody allergic to this? Anybody allergic? Let me know, whatever. This is the closest hospital in the area. In the event we have emergency, we had this. Yeah, man, non-disclosures. John, did you sign your non-disclosure? I'm like, huh? No. She said, did you sign your
NDA.
Did you sign your NDA form? I said my DNA. I'm black. So who? African American
But
black.
you know what, John? To bring it all full circle, that's where, remember how I talked about my first job as an assistant? It was a clerical administrative job.
I know.
So I dealt with paperwork and contracts, and even working at the law firm, it's like I'm able to take all of those things that I learned from like the corporate world,
man,
and bring them to the independent film set.
Q done. Man, let me tell you something, because I know you said, well, okay, well, I mean, we're going to hit a comment. This is an audio and visual podcast. Shout out to both platforms. But I know reading the comments, people say, okay, who said that you should do this and why should you do? Listen, brother or sister or whoever. Man, it's like my first time even understanding like an entertainment lawyer, just coming in an independent level, was through her. Oh, I already had the lawyers look over the contract. I already had this. I had everything. Everything's notarized, document. Okay, I need you to sign. Okay, this. We're going to structure this business. We're going to start out with an LLC, or you want to do it this. Okay, is this going to just be your company by itself? Is it a sole proprietorship? Is it going to be a partnership?
And now, sorry to cut in, but granted, this did not all happen overnight. You know what I'm saying? It was a process, because I don't want people thinking I just came out the gate.
No,
like
I'm talking about your elevation of like you learning and really like, you know, saying, okay, how should we do this? Me looking at behind the scenes and saying like, okay, I see this dope nature footage. How did they film that? How did you get that close to an alligator? Who films this stuff? You look at Jacques Cousteau and how you not scared to be on the water like that? So who's getting these shots? How you film a whale? So you say, have you ever seen a blue whale before? Oh, I seen one. They big. How did you see it? I seen it on TV. Who filmed it?
Somebody had to get that footage.
You don't even know the cinematographer. You just know, you like, man, them lions, they big. Okay, how did you see it? Somebody captured that moment. And just being a creative person and figuring out ways to capture moments and to tell these stories is amazing. But let's just keep pushing forward. But we're going to go on and close out, and let Q do her thing. I'm sorry to get a little emotional. I'm getting a little upset over here.
It's okay. So this has been episode 2 of the Elevated Creativity Podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it today as we discuss different ways and how your network is your net worth. We dug a little deep, went a little back into our background, how we got our start in the industry. We discussed the establishing, building, and growing your network and how important that circle of influence is. And we hope that you guys are able to take some of the things away. And we know sometimes me and Jon can go off on a tangent with our stories, and even just when we start motivating you guys, and it's because we're so passionate about what we talk about, and we just want to see people win. Like we said, we just want this podcast to be a beacon of positivity out there. So if you have any feedback for today's episode, any questions, anything that you guys want us to elaborate, please make sure you leave a comment if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, or if you're listening to the podcast on one of the streaming services.
Also, too, make sure y'all follow us on the platforms this podcast is on, and make sure you subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star rating, and also, share the podcast. Share.
Sharing is caring, like Jon said last week.
I slipped up so bad. You had that face going. I'm like, man, if they could see your face, you just like, okay.
Well, if they subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is Elevated Creativity, then they can see my beautiful face and your pretty green eyes. All right. So thank you guys again for tuning in to another episode of the Elevated Creativity Podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you guys next time.